Salve, hi there. It's Molendinarius here, and I'm just taking this opportunity to respond to some comments left on my channel yesterday by Dominic, Edinburgh, either from Edinburgh, or that's his name, and Matthew Brennan, and a chap from France called Nicola. Firstly, Dominic, thank you. I'm pleased that you are enjoying using the materials that I've got here. And the idea is to sort of recreate, to some degree, as far as you can outside of a classroom, the kind of material that you'd be studying if you were studying Latin in the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s. That's the time period when Latin was still a workhorse language, when people actually needed to know it. Nowadays, when we study Latin, it's pretty much like playing chess. as Matthew Brennan has discovered in his Latin course. Matthew Brennan says this. He says, my teacher refuses to speak Latin in class, and we are forced to seek out each word and force the Latin into English sentences when we translate. I've always wanted to become fluent in Latin and have become frustrated how it is taught as a jigsaw puzzle rather than as a living language. And so he says he really appreciates the Adler course and the videos. And of course, Adler will do that for you. If you want to learn how to speak Latin, and to get Latin into your head in a more natural way, Adler will do it for you. It's an extremely pernickety course because it goes into the very fine details of language, but it does it. Yes, it has grammar. Every lesson in Adler has a large grammar section, but the bulk of the learning, as Matthew has discovered himself, is done through thousands of examples, slowly building up in complexity. And then you take Adler and you combine it with things like Aesop and the Colloquia of Corderius and other materials that were designed for students who wanted to command the language, in the sense that the language then gets into their heads. You have a course that really does work. The problem, Matthew, is this. Most Latin teachers can't speak Latin. I know that when I bump into people who say studying Latin at Cambridge or whatever, and I try to speak to them, I just get a blank look back and embarrassment and shock. People that study Latin, generally speaking, cannot speak it, even in the most rudimentary way, sort of like baby speak. And I think that if you can't speak the language, no matter how badly, then you don't really understand the language very well. If you are constantly translating out of it, then you're not really in it. The whole point of learning a new language is that you enter into a new paradigm, a new view of the world, a new mindset, a new lens. And the Roman lens is very particular, and it's very different to the lens of the world that we see when we deal with English. So if you're translating into English, you're not really getting the experience of being inside a Roman's head, which after all is the whole point of learning another language. It's a kind of time travel. As you've noticed, Matthew, Latin has become like chess. It's an intellectual exercise. Things that are testable are focused on. So things that are testable, declensions, verbs, parsing, those kind of things are testable. If you do a Latin exam, you will get set texts and you can learn the translations. And probably, I imagine, pass without knowing much Latin. That's the state of affairs in the classroom. Why don't teachers like speaking Latin? Well, you hear this frequently. Oh, we don't know how Latin was spoken. We don't know how it sounded. We don't know. Well, factually, we do know. It's laziness and possibly insecurity. And so many teachers just don't like saying anything aloud in their classrooms. And if they do, they really don't care very much about pronunciation. Very few academics and very few Latin teachers do spend much time worrying about pronunciation. But if you don't, then you get things wrong, you get words confused with other words, etc. All of this, of course, becomes rather irrelevant if most of the time you are dealing with translation into your native language and you're not really engaging with the Latin itself. So that's the problem. So Dominic, I really hope your studies go well. There's other stuff on YouTube, not just my material. Listen to it as much as you can, and maybe you'll find some of the audio recordings on latinum.org.uk useful as well, particularly the Adler course, which would take you right up to a university level standard of Latin from the beginning. And even if you have studied Latin, it covers such a wide range of material that even if you studied for 2 or 3 or 4 years or even more, Adler will still keep surprising you with more and more things that you didn't know before. And Nicola Coipel, he says, Bonjour, je suis français et je me demandais si vous saviez parler le latin. Quod respondo, sic etiam possum istam linguam confabulari, sed consuetudinem non habeo id facere hic, quod non tam peritus sum linguae latinae, ergo in videogrammata mea legam. So, yeah, I do speak Latin, but I'm not particularly fluent. I don't think. I'm not massively. There are people certainly far more fluent than I am. And so when I'm recording YouTube videos, I don't see much point in speaking Latin. What I'm doing is reading. And he asks, si oui, où l'avez-vous appris? Well, the answer from that is I learned how to speak Latin by studying Adler's A Practical Grammar of the Latin Language. And Adler taught me how to speak Latin, along with the various Renaissance texts that I started to use, like Corderius, the Fables, the things that I'm now presenting to you on my channel. These are the materials I used to get my Latin to where it is today. All of it pretty much without a teacher. It's not really necessary to have one. As long as you engage with the language and then you start trying to write in it and speak to other people. If you go onto the Locutorium Latinum on Skype, there you can join the conversation. There are about 140 people so far, and there's regular conversation taking place on the Skype channel. Most of it's text, but if you click on the top where it says participants, you can see all the people there. Those who've got little green ticks, because that's how Skype works. You can click on their names and you can call them and, if they're available, speak. So you can't actually speak in the chat room itself, but you can create a joint call with, I think, 3 or 4 people at the same time. Yeah. There is also another Skype Latin group, but that's only got 15 people and it's invitation only enclosed, and they will not have more than 15 people, because once you have over 15 you can't do group calls anymore. So that's separate to the and there's no URL, so you can't find it to join it. You have to be invited. So that's it's pretty much, and yeah, I hope you enjoy listening to my things, and if you have any suggestions about videos you'd like me to produce that you think would be useful, and the material is available and not in copyright, then I'll be happy to look at it and see what can be done. If you have questions for me, feel free to ask them, and if I have time, then I'll make an effort to answer them. So, Dominic, good luck with your Latin studies, and the same with Matthew and Nicola aussi. Right? Vale, bye.